In the Wonder Woman issue, the first thing you open up to is an essay called Wonder Woman Can Save the World by Linda Carter, who, if you don't know, portrayed Wonder Woman in the classic TV series. And in this essay, she talks about how Wonder Woman is essentially the original female superhero and how she accessorizes, but all the accessories have a point, and a little bit about how the mythology's changed, but how she's always been this very feminine character, and kind of how she personally was affected by the character before she even took the role, which was honestly something I expected to be just kind of campy when I just picked it up, but reading through it, it actually had me going to the grandiose of the character, which for these issues was the only one to actually encapsulate that, to actually have this big 100 event, talk about this grandiose of a character, not even so much as just being a comic or tying into the next story arc, but trying to promote this idea of the character as an icon, which was just such a great start for me with this comic. The story that this opens up to is written by Gail Simone, so I'm personally inclined to like it, and it's just this interesting little quick bit where there's these robots that apparently can mind control only men, and so all the female superheroes have been rallied. This all takes place pretty much before the comic starts, and it's just kind of a slugfest, and you just kind of see how Wonder Woman is actually an icon, even within the story, to all these different female superheroes, and if she says something, they fall in line, even if they're more anti-heroes or whatever. She's just such a beacon to everyone that they fall in line, and it's really a good speaking to the idea of her being part of the Trinity, part of the icon set. And also, it just kind of speaks to the importance of the character and how she's able to inspire so much. And then it switches to her as Deanna Prince, and you see the same thing, but more on a common level, and it's a well-written story. It's somewhat uplifting, but also just, again, echoes to the importance of this character, which is, in this sort of issue, the sort of thing that should be the theme. The next story is really great. It's Amanda Connor's story, and if you don't know, she just finished her run on Power Girl, and it was an amazing 12 issues. And here you just have a few things, and it is Power Girl and Wonder Woman, Batgirl's even thrown in, but really peripheral. And most of the story actually is just about Wonder Woman explaining kind of this primal instinct thing about Power Girl, about her cat, and how the cat would view her as kind of, not like a possession, but as hers. And then when she goes away, the cat's upset because she's leaving him. And it was just this whole thing about it, and it was just kind of interesting and touching. And what's interesting is when they start off, they're taking on Egg Fu, and he has tentacles, and Power Girl remarks that it looks like a hentai monster, and Wonder Woman keeps asking about it. It's really funny, really quick, and I've probably totally ruined it, but it's like 5 pages, but it's just absolutely amazing. It's not what it's about, it's all in the details, and it was just another amazing thing. And then after the story, there's just pinup after glorious pinup. Actually, the worst of, in my opinion, is George Perez's, who's a 2-page spread pinup with just trying to go over the entire mythos of Wonder Woman in one damn wrap-up. Then there's a quick Wonder Woman Superman team-up where they take on this guy who's stolen Zeus's lightning in a Pegasus, and it's just kind of getting more at the Greek mythos, and honestly, this is more of a throwaway story, and there's not a lot to it, but it's in there. Then we get to a part where it's similar to the Superman book, and where Starensky basically sets up his run for Wonder Woman for however many issues it's going to be. And what's interesting is right before that, there's a few pages written by Jeff Johns where they retouch on Wonder Woman's origins so that she can be this streetwise character that Starensky wanted, because he wanted her to be more street, much like he wants Superman to roam the earth. I don't know why these grand icons need to be so brought into the city, but apparently that's where DC's heading with these characters. And it's really interesting to see JMS's because it really feels kind of what a lot of people were fearing when they saw the costume change. And if you haven't seen that, just look it up. It's all over the net. It's kind of like a Black Canary sort of thing, but with more of a mystical element going on. And it's a lot of, if you've read any of JMS's Spider-Man stuff, or if you've seen some of Babylon 5, he has a way about going about mysticism where a few rules are explained, but a lot of it's left to magic. In a lot of ways reminiscent of Neil Gaiman. And it's pushing forward, but I'm getting a sense that actually the story, she's going to have to revisit this reimagining of her origin and kind of fix it, I have a feeling, which could be actually a really powerful metaphor metatextually, but it should be interesting to see, and I'm actually intrigued to see where this one goes, unlike the Superman comic. Then to wrap up the Wonder Woman comic, at the end there's 2 pages where there's one page where Jim Lee comments on his design, how it was hard to do, blah blah blah, that's nice. And then there's J. Michael Straczynski talking about how he wanted a costume change. He wanted to do something so drastic with Wonder Woman because she's a character that should be in the top 20 at the very least of DC sales, and she's not, and how something needs to be done with the character. And, you know, what woman wears the same outfit for 60 years? Ha ha ha. I actually thought it was kind of cool, but it's kind of speaking to the fact that Wonder Woman's remained stagnant, which I have a huge issue with. Every time I've seen a new creator come onto Wonder Woman for the past decade or so, they always say the same thing. People won't have been this interested in Wonder Woman since some prior run. This is going to shake it up, and every time they kind of touch on her origin in a different way. And admittedly, this time, they're really shaking up. They're doing a different costume and everything. But in a lot of ways, when Gail Simone did her run initially, she went back, she didn't completely revamp the origin. She went back and she tweaked it and she made it more relevant to the character now, much like what Jeff Johns has done with Green Lantern. And it just, to me, is... I understand where they're going and I understand why they're making such a big deal about it, but for people who've been following it, it sounds a little redundant at this point. It's the 3rd time in a row that this has happened. Admittedly, this is the most drastic of the 3, but I'm still interested and I'd like to see where it goes. So if you didn't pick up on my feelings for this, I'd say the only one that, if you're really just looking to pick up one that's worth getting, is the Wonder Woman issue. It is the one that shows the most promise for comics going out. It is the only issue that spoke really to the grandiose of the character, and honestly had the best writing held within. Now, if you're just looking for a one and done, I have to say the Batman issue is actually somewhat interesting, but in no way is it worth the price tag. So if you can ever see it on some sort of discount or if it ever makes into a quarter bin, totally worth it. But beyond that, meh. And the Superman comic is not worth it at all. So that's my 2 cents on this whole mini event, and, you know, hope you enjoy, and I'll hit you soon with another comic review.